This is Marita Golden again. I'm having another in my series of short conversations with new age, strong Black women about how they prioritize self-care, self-love, health, and healing. And today I'm talking with Queen Muse, who very generously shared her story with me in my new book, Strong Black Woman, which is on sale now, and you can get your copy. Today, Queen and I are going to talk about a very difficult but kind of inevitable subject that touches us all, and that is the death of a loved one, the process of grief and grieving, and how she has woven her longstanding practices of self-care into what she's going through now. So Queen, thank you for joining me today. And I know that the death of your partner was very unexpected. If you feel comfortable, you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all, and congratulations on the book. Yeah, losing my partner was completely unexpected. He was only 33 years old. And I wouldn't say the picture of health, but I feel like around that age, I'm only a few years older, 37, you're not thinking that anything that you're doing health-wise could lead you to not be here in an instant. So it was very shocking and very traumatic. And sudden, and forced me to face a situation in which all these tools that you refer to, I had to test myself on whether or not I actually believed in them. I had to test myself on whether or not I was actually going to use them. I'll be honest, the first 2 months, I probably just laid in bed, cried, depressed, lots of anger. A toolkit was not even on my mind. I just let the grief wave kind of carry me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think over time, and mainly because I have 2 children that I still had to wake up and show up for, I started to pull myself together. One of the big tools for that, of course, was therapy for me, and my grief support groups. So I originally joined a group on Facebook where I would just write messages about my feelings, and to have a group of people who understood what it felt like to lose someone, and to just say, you're not crazy for this feeling. Whatever that feeling was that day was comforting and would help me get through to the next day where I'd have some new thing that I'm like freaking out over. All these realizations just about life and death and how things work. It just constantly happens after someone goes. It's a constant wave of new things that you've never faced before. And I think that's where we all get challenged on whether or not we're going to use those tools. Is you used them before, but are you going to use them now, right? In this new thing that you've never experienced before.
Yeah. I lost my mother at 21 and my father at 23. So I had to deal with a big loss pretty young. And in those days, back in the 70s, we weren't really talking much about, therapy and support groups. But the one thing I realized over time is that my mother and my father were with me. They're living, breathing factors in my life. And I wondered, how have you talked to your children about this? And I say this because I recently had a conversation with a young girl, 10 years old, a family member, and she lost her father. And she told me that she had not cried. She had held her sadness in. And I was really saddened by that. And I put my arms around her and told her that, please know that you can cry, you can release those feelings. How do you talk to your children?
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do as a part of this, was to tell my daughter, who is 12, that he was gone. He very much was a tremendous stepfather to her and has been in her life since she was 6 years old. So she's 12. And so telling her was hard. Telling her was hard because he was very important in her life. And she was old enough to understand. And my son, who was 3 at the time and is turning 4, didn't really understand. And so it was this crazy difficult dynamic for me where my daughter completely understood and immediately, of course, was sad. And I had to find a flow of showing her my emotions openly, but not showing her them all the time. So like in the early days, I'm crying every day. I let her see some of those tears, but not all, because I didn't want to pull her to where I was. If she's having a good day, I'm like, I'll have this cry in the bathroom. I'll have this cry in the closet. And then I'll
Right.
come out and I'll be okay for her, because I didn't want to pull her out of her childhood happiness for that moment. Obviously, I have a different and deeper connection with him than she did. Um, and that helped, because over time I noticed my daughter would just have her moments, and she would just have them. We'd be sitting in the car, she'd hear a song and she'd just cry, and she'll just say, I miss him, you know?
So
And
you modeled showing your emotions, not all of them,
yeah,
but enough that she understood that showing the emotion in the sex was okay.
yes. And that was so important in the long term, because I worried about that for her, that she would feel like she had to hold it in or that she couldn't truly express. And I think now, in this place that we are now, it's been almost a year, we have an ebb and flow. Like, we understand each other. Like, I can tell when she's having a grief moment and I let her have it. And same for me. She'll be like, and sometimes we'll have that moment together. My son, it's been interesting for me because no one tells you how to talk to a toddler about loss. There are, I had a friend who sent me a few books, and they're like, read this book and it'll introduce them to the concept of whether that's, going to heaven or someone not being around and why they're not there. But there's nothing you can teach somebody when your son walks up to you and says, where's dad? What do you say? There's no perfect script for that moment. So those moments in the beginning would send me in my room crying. I didn't
Sure.
even know how to talk to him. And his grief showed up as anger. So we started to see him being violent and aggressive in his moments of frustration, I believe, because he was used to having those moments with his dad. He was
Right.
close to him. So I sought therapy for him. There are very limited options for kids under the age of 5 or 6. I just tried to be as comforting as possible to him in those moments where I could tell something was wrong, but he's too young to even articulate what he's feeling. I erred on the side of just being super kind and super patient and super, compassionate toward him in those moments.
Mhm. Okay. Well, Queen, this has been short but incredibly impactful, um, even for me. And your wisdom and your generosity, I thank you so much for that. And I just wish you and your children all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.